What up, guys? This is Wild Rock, and today I got another character discussion, and today we're going to be talking about Sindel. Now, I know in my last video that I was talking about a resurrecting character, and a lot of people thought it was Noob Saibot, but I actually did Sindel. Now, the reason I did Sindel was because, Halloween's coming up in a matter of just a few days, and not only that, but, this is a wicked bitch, and I felt like it was necessary to do her giggy, and, and to, discuss her. And so let's talk about Sindel. Okay, what the hell is up with her? Like, after everything that she's been through, I mean, a lot of people don't know exactly where she came from or who she is. Well, she's actually the queen of Edenia. Now, as for now, we don't really know, really, because, yes, she was married to King Jared, and then when Shao Kahn came, he pretty much overthrown, any royalty of that family whatsoever. I mean, for God's sakes, he brainwashed his wannabe daughter, Katana, and, forced Sindel to marry him, and, even brainwashed her into thinking that, everything was all good and fine. So it makes me think, God, she's got a lot of problems. But I'm not saying that, I'm not saying that it's her fault. I'm just saying that, through her history of her life, she's had a lot of shit happen to her, and as well as her daughter and everyone else in Edenia. So it makes me think, she wasn't necessarily this, as people may see as her now, as to be evil. She's not really evil. She was corrupted, and she never was, intended to be evil, unless Shao Kahn wanted it to be like that, because obviously he brainwashed her. So a lot of people are like, well, does that mean she was originally good? Yes. At one time, she was originally good before Shao Kahn actually invaded Edenia and pretty much brainwashed her and, had her as his queen to be, or bride to be, so to say. So, through her story, she finally came to her senses, and realized that she was being brainwashed. She realized, her husband, King Jared, died, and her only daughter, Katana, was brainwashed in the process. And the fact that she realized that she caused so much chaos when she was brainwashed, she couldn't deal with it. It was just like she had a total mindfuck. And she actually killed herself. And she committed suicide. Now, when people think about that, they're just like, holy shit, And yeah, I agree with you, holy shit, because if she has that much royalty to realize what she's done, even though it wasn't really, even though she wasn't really in the right mindset, but still taking the responsibility of her actions, and as extreme as it was, as in committing suicide, I would say that's probably the most royal thing that you could do. Now, I'm not saying suicide's good, it's totally bad. I'm just saying that, the fact that she still would take responsibility for her actions is just remarkable as a character in Mortal Kombat. Because as we all know, not a lot of characters in Mortal Kombat tend to take their responsibility for their actions, so such as many of the villains, and even some of the good characters too. But so are we going to see Sindel or any reference to Sindel in Mortal Kombat X? Now, even though we haven't seen any gameplay at all, or seen any, hints from Ed, on Ed Boon's Twitter or anything like that. I think I said Twitter, or Tweeter, I don't know. Anyways, that doesn't necessarily mean that we won't see her. Now, I know in the story, which I've talked to a lot of people recently, that a lot of people don't really pay attention to the story, but that's not usually the case. There is still a massive majority of fans that pay attention to the story and are trying to deal with, what the hell's happened since Mortal Kombat 9, because it's like some people call it a reboot or a retelling, and, it basically is a retelling, of the Mortal Kombat 1 through 3. Which make a lot of people think that, this next Mortal Kombat X is going to take place or have some type of atmosphere like Mortal Kombat 4 did. And as I mentioned to them, even though I wasn't really a personal fan of Mortal Kombat 4, I did like the atmosphere. I did like the dark grittiness, because it was just that atmosphere that told you, hey, shit's going down and it's about to get serious. And you were just, and you never really felt that. Like for me, I never really felt that in a Mortal Kombat besides Mortal Kombat Deception. And then, and then when Mortal Kombat Armageddon came, especially having all the characters from out the entire history was just like, holy shit, So that feeling of the darkness and the grittiness and the overhaul, feel if that's what they're doing with this MKX, then that'd be great. Now, what does this have to do with Sindel? Well, Sindel's a bad bitch, okay? Even though I'm not really a fan, I do like her hair whip attack, and her scream move. That's like her signature moves, pretty much. And the fact that they're actually, if they're going to actually make this one a really more dark tone, serious, gory, disgusting Mortal Kombat, which I'm pretty sure just even by seeing some gameplay and previews, even though that's not really a lot to confirm, that they're going in that direction. I mean, Mortal Kombat's always been in that genre of blood, gore, even humor, even dark humor. But as for a wicked bitch like Sindel, I would definitely like to see her in this Mortal Kombat. And like I said, even though I'm not a fan of her, I do think that she would fit nicely in Mortal Kombat MKX. And did I really just say she fits nicely? Giggity. Anyway, so, what would you expect for her as for her move list? Like, would she actually have her typical hair, whip move? Would it be a more newer version of it, such as, like, when they, you enhance it in Mortal Kombat 9? Will it be kind of like, back and forth? Or will it kind of, like, do a whip motion, like, upward and slam them down instead of just grabbing them and hitting them to the ground? There's many, many different ways on how they can do that. And, yeah, I know we're just talking about hair, but you gotta remember, that's one of her signature moves, pretty much, like her scream. And, as much as I liked her scream as well as her hair, in Mortal Kombat 9, I really thought that they could actually do a little bit better with her screaming. Yeah, it was loud. Yeah, and it was in her X-ray. That's great. But the thing is that, like for her fatalities that consisted of the screaming, I don't really think we necessarily needed two versions of a screaming fatality. Nor do I think that, it was... Yeah, I thought that it was kind of low on volume-wise, this woman can scream so fucking loud, she can tear the skin off of a person's bones. Seriously. And come on. They should have at least toned it up and made people with headphones, like, such as myself and many others, or even, people that just listen to the game, through their TVs, to go, holy shit, that was loud, and and as Sindel fans that I've talked to are like, we agree, her screams should be louder. So if she was in Mortal Kombat X, I think that's one thing that they should really, not really focus on, but should keep an eye on as an, hey, let's tune it up a little bit, let's make this a really loud bitch, like seriously. And, I would totally welcome that. Now, as for costumes, like such as Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance, her alternative costume, she had that kind of like queen approach of royalty, so to say. I really didn't mind it. It was something new that we haven't seen, ever. But even like with Mortal Kombat 9's costume, and how she actually had like a ponytail, even though she could still do her hair moves and any other moves, it kind of makes the character a little bit unique while still keeping the same aspect of knowing, hey, that's Sindel. And it makes me think, if they were to put her in Mortal Kombat X, what kind of look would they give her? Would they just give her the typical look of, a purple outfit with, like, a skunk-looking hair? Not that I'm offending her or anything, but with the, the white with the black stripe, and the white eyes, Or would they do something totally different? Because, yeah, we've seen, Scorpion Sub-Zero, and even though Sub-Zero looks kind of like he normally does, like from past games, with the whole blue ninja look, or no, I'm sorry, not ninja, Lin Kuei, he still has, differences that if you were to compare, past, versions of him, you would obviously see that there was differences. So it makes me think, would they do anything different with her? Would they, change up her look? Would it make it more kind of royalty approach, or, even demonic even, you figure this is like the MILF bitch of Mortal Kombat, and yeah, her daughter is Katana, but she could still keep her figure, so, come on, and the fact, and the fact that she was resurrected a long time ago, and because she committed suicide, and she came back in Mortal Kombat 9, as many of you already know, or have never played the story of Mortal Kombat 9, which I'm pretty sure that would be impossible. But if you guys never did play the story of Mortal Kombat 9, she was, dead, and spoiler alert, and she came back, and she was resurrected by Quan Chi and Noob Saibot. Now, when she came back, she was, pissed off, and it wasn't resurrected as, oh yeah, let's have, old Queen Sindel back. No, it was, hey, let's take this bitch and fucking use her to our advantage. And that's what Shao Kahn, Shang Tsung, and everyone else on the side did. So, of course, she was used for evil again in this one, even though this was like a retelling, so to say, of Mortal Kombat. So, during that story, she pretty much went apeshit, and a lot of people were kind of pissed off about that because, there was a scene in particular where she killed like at least 6 or 7 people, and a couple of them people were Jax, Stryker, her own daughter, Katana. I mean, there was just Nightwolf. There was just so many fucking people that she just went on a murdering spree. Now, a lot of people are like, why the fuck did NRS do that? And I think, honestly, they did that in particular for this Mortal Kombat. It's because I think that they were trying to get rid of past characters and make room for new ones, like for Mortal Kombat X, which is ironic because we have seen quite a few new characters already in just, like, the hints and actual gameplay. And it makes me think, as just a viewer, it makes me think, if they were doing a retelling of Mortal Kombat, since Mortal Kombat 1 through Mortal Kombat Armageddon days. Okay, Mortal Kombat Armageddon took place, and it was like a full-out war. It was like, everybody good versus everybody bad, and, whoever was the victor had to face Blaze. Okay, so what the hell does that have to do with Sindel? Well, it makes me think, wasn't the point of a retelling or a reboot version of Mortal Kombat 9, wasn't it supposed to save the characters from not dying, and having a big, crazy, epic, fight? Well, we just seen Sindel fucking, like, kill 7 people right off the bat. At least 7 people right off the bat. So it's like they either dug themselves in a hole, accidentally, interested, or they are purposely killing off these characters in order to make new room for more characters. Now, I don't necessarily think that once they're dead, they're gone for good. And, I mean, come on, guys. The golden rule of Mortal Kombat is that no one ever fucking dies in Mortal Kombat, ever. And, I know people were kind of pissed off when we had Zombie Liu Kang, and then Bai Han turning into Noob Saibot, but no one really dies. I mean, yeah, we've seen all those characters die, and yeah, it was considered canon, in the story, but no one really dies. That's why I'm pretty sure that we're going to see these characters back. Now, as for Sindel, I would definitely like to see her back in Mortal Kombat X, and especially, with the way that they're doing things. Like, I know I keep reminding you guys about, like, Quan Chi and Sub-Zero and even Scorpion's variations and whatnot, but, I mean, if they had variations for Sindel, I could honestly see Sindel being on the character selection screen and doing, like, a little pose, as she's about to fight, Kotal Khan or Devora, or Cassie Cage or somebody like that. I mean, it's just one of those things. I mean, she fits perfectly. And I'm not even a Sindel fan. I just think that she would personally fit well in this Mortal Kombat, no doubt. So it makes me think, will she be in? Will you guys like to have her in? What kind of style of, look would you like to have her, actually in? Would you like to see her old weapon that she used to use in Mortal Kombat, Deception, back, as for variation, like it may be a weapon style, maybe? Or would you like her to see, how she originally looked, like, way back in Mortal Kombat 9, or even all the way back to Mortal Kombat Trilogy, or, even back in, I think, Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, even. So, it's up to you guys, Would you like to see her in? And, if not, would you like to see her in at least in the story, or perhaps a download content, or, something later, as the game has been, revealed, So, as an opinion, as my own opinion, I'm not, like I said, I'm not really a fan of Sindel, but I would definitely like to see her at least in the story or even as a playable character. But, I mean, I don't want to piss off a lot of, Sindel fans out there, but I would like to see her back, definitely. And, as much as this game's already made me, like Quan Chi, which I still can't believe it's fucking made me do that, I'm pretty sure it would probably make me like Sindel as well. So I'm always open to different characters or new characters to practice with and, to play with. So, but yeah, this has been Rod Rocker, and I think for my next hint for my next character is going to be a 4-armed character. So it could be Shiva, it could be Kentaro, it could be Goro, or it could be somebody that, I could, like, make up. I don't know. I'm just kidding. But anyways, this has been Wild Rocker, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.